Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us all here today. And first of all, thanks, of course, to Uncle Michael and Brendan, to Craig for joining us again this year, and to Michael for his great introduction. And we're delighted that you could all join us once more for the ECA Foresighting Forum. At a time of very considerable turmoil, it gives me great joy, but also great pride that 263 people would want to come together to fashion a future for everyone in the country. This has been an enormous year for ECA, notwithstanding a range of enormous challenges, which all of you are very well aware. And we're delighted to say it's been a successful year for us. We're hitting our stride, I think it's fair to say, and we're going after big targets with big ideas. And I'm very pleased to say on behalf of the team that we feel that we're winning more than we're losing at the moment. And that trajectory will only grow and continue. That said, this is an environment, a policy environment, as all of you know, that's very much like quicksand. It can pull you under very quickly if you're not careful. And the way that we stay above the line is by focusing very clearly on what we stand for and what we stand against. And we come to those conclusions in 5 ways, and I thought I'd give you just a very quick outline of some of our thinking. The first is through a kind of native skepticism. This is a system that, as you know, is designed by engineers and economists, but for me, there's just way too much religion for my liking. There are too many a priori assumptions. We are often asked our opinion on someone else's opinion. So we're focusing very heavily on facts rather than pious truths. And I'm delighted to say that ECA's reputation for empiricism, for research, for analysis, holds us in very good stead to have the kinds of conversations that we wish to. The second thing is investigation. We test and we test and we test again. We've invested heavily in a research team with Ash and Ben and Ellum, who are giving us enormous insights into consumer behaviour, experience, understanding and outcomes. And this situates us very well to then comment with a level of authority on the kinds of issues that come across our desk on a daily basis. Our ideas are informed by real expertise, internal and external, and by engagement with all of you. I'm pleased to say that a quarter of the ECA team, board and staff have PhDs, and the other 3/4 were too smart to go and get one. The third thing I wanted to call out is our relationships. You get things done in this sector by creating coalitions. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. We've doubled down on engagement. We know that success for us is all about coalitions, likely and unlikely. It's not always been a great success in the consumer movement, frankly, to coalesce around a few strong advocacy platforms and to progress those in unison. This is what we're aiming to get behind and to foster in this sector. We know that the time of simple customer versus corporate is over. In the energy transition where we find ourselves at the moment, there are very diffuse, nuanced conversations, and very often the policy outcomes will be distinguishing between consumers rather than consumers as a group. There will be, in any given argument, someone who may win that argument or win that policy outcome and another who may lose. And what we're most concerned to ensure is that that is an illuminated conversation, that people understand what they're getting in policy terms, and that it's not the same people who lose every time, which is what we see too often at the moment. In a moral world, energy cannot be a zero-sum game. 2 other things that we use to determine what we're going after. One is bravery. Now, if there's such a thing as the sacred in this room, it's the moral trust that we know is bestowed upon us by the 27 million bosses that we have. They don't want us, consumers don't want us, I don't think, to go after the little things. They want real change. They want valuable change. We need to pony up for the right fights. Some people will love us. Some people will occasionally hate us for some of the decisions or policy positions that we take, but we want to be quite sure that no one can ever disrespect or ignore us. We've come a long way, we've got a long way to go, but we know that consumers want us to hunt big game, and they want us to win, and that's the fifth thing that I wanted to mention to you. Consumers want successes in their favour. We know that as an organisation of 25 people, give or take, that we're sometimes a bit of a barnacle on a battleship, you know. I don't know about you, but I sometimes feel as if I'm bringing a slingshot to a showdown. But that's okay, because we're getting pretty good with the slingshot. It's hard when the consumer movement is stacked up against enormous interests. But one thing that we're realising is that if we go after the big issues that affect consumers most powerfully, we can often create the kind of coalitions, create the kind of moral authority and goodwill that will lead to success. If we spend all of our time knowing we're right, but affecting no change in people's shops or their lounge rooms, then we will have failed. Consumers want us to succeed in their behalf. A couple of other things I wanted to say briefly. I don't have time now to articulate a whole list of the kinds of areas that we've gone after and the kind of successes we've had in the last year, but I thought I'd mention a couple. In fact, my happiest moment, I would say, in my job last year, was when we had a staff offsite. We all got together and gave people the inevitable post-it notes, and we said, take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, and write down the successes that you're proud of individually and on behalf of the organisation for a year. And there was absolute silence except for the scratching of pens, right? And we got dozens and dozens and dozens of these post-it notes, and we put them all on a board, and it was quite a silent moment for me to look at all of the things that we'd achieved on one wall, and an exciting moment we felt on behalf of consumers. We want that wall to be bigger year on year. As you know, last year we introduced our 3-year plan, our strategic plan, with 7 targets. I won't go through the details, you will see them lined up on both sides of the room here. But our 3-year plan envisages a world in which energy enables but doesn't prevent, in which those who can invest get a fair return, but not at the expense of others being relegated, and where energy firms are heroes and they've earned that accolade. This is the world that we are wanting to participate in and bring more fully to life on behalf of customers. A couple of quick observations about some of the areas that we're focused on, and then I'll pass over. We're pleased to say, out of all the rule changes proposed through the national energy market last year, Brian and his team at ECA proposed a third of those, and they're wending their way through the process. I won't bore you with the details, but one of those, just one of those is going to save consumers hundreds of millions of dollars over the life. We've also fostered enormous conversations and powerful conversations what the future of the legislative and regulatory construct must be for energy in Australia in the future. There has to be a duty that energy firms owe to consumers, not just the other way around. And we're delighted that the Federal Department has stepped into this and is interested to support this idea and is soon to issue a paper calling for comment on this. The last thing I was going to say is we're seeing success and engagement up and down the level because governments, decision makers across the country are recognising the significance of energy in the life of their communities and really what the transition will mean for them. So at a Commonwealth level, we've had some great influence this year, and I think some really, really great outcomes when it comes to setting the default market price and what this is going to be. This is the standing offer that maybe 10% of consumers are covered by. And we've seen extraordinary work done by the Market Commission and others on addressing long-standing consumer grievances like the loyalty tax. And so we're really pleased that ECA's advocacy over a number of years through Rosemary and Lynn, and then since I've been there, has led to really good consumer outcomes. But even at a local level, we're here in Sydney. We're delighted to say that the City of Sydney has announced that all new builds, residential, hotel, large businesses, industrial, will be all electric. That's a big move for a very big council, and we were very pleased that in announcing this, they said that the idea really came to them and was developed based on a report that we put together some time ago. So we're very pleased with the amount of work that the ECA team are doing with all of your organisations, the enormous commitment that you've had to assisting our team, and the great coalitions and relationships that we're forming. I hope very dearly that you enjoy the next 2 days here. Do me a favour, if you possibly can. See if you can maybe learn 3 things, forge 2 new friendships, and commit to 1 change. If you can take that away, this will be some time well spent. I've got a couple of acknowledgements to make. The first is I really want to thank all of our sponsors. As you know, we invite people from around the country to join the conference, and we subsidise a lot of tickets, we provide a lot of tickets, and it's only because of our sponsors that we're enabled to do that. So I'd like to call out, as you can see here, Race for 2030, Transgrid, Cutler Mertz, Houston Kemp, and Essential Energy. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to present the conference in the way that we do. We have 30 or more speakers from across the country, 3 great international speakers, the 3 professors as we call them. You'll hear from them today. And I'd like to congratulate the ECA team for all the work that they do, particularly in advance Melissa, who's done an extraordinary job this year in bringing everything together. We appreciate it very deeply. Thank you for your time, everyone. We hope you enjoy this time with us and with each other. We assign seating for the Foresighting Forum, uncommonly for a conference, but we like the idea that people get to sit with people that they otherwise maybe hadn't met or wouldn't know and can strike up some good relationships. So please take some time to introduce yourself and get to know the other people at your table. My final thing is to introduce Tim Edwards, the ever-charming and charismatic CEO of Cutler Mertz, who's going to introduce our first keynote speaker, Louis. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated.